Hello, Ian.
Hello, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's great having you on. In fact, what you had reached out to me. You have a Kickstarter happening, and what I thought was interesting is it's a meet and crawl classic Kickstarter, and I started thinking about the number of people that I have on my podcast. I think the Mutant Crawl Classic people went out, and I'm not really sure how that is. I kind of scratch my head. It's not like I'm have a Mutant Crawl Classics podcast or that I run around Mutant Crawl Classics circles. And I only play Mutant Crawl Classics only in at conventions, but I find it's kind of fun that for whatever reason, maybe because one guy started, everybody else says, "Hey, me too." But anyway, it's fun. Mutant Crawl Classics is a fun game system. And so you have both a Kickstarter Fire in the Mole, and then you
Yes.
also have your is it Fantastic Geographics?
Yeah. So yeah, it was the latest thing we put out was two zines, Fantastic Geographic issue 1 and 2, aptly named. But those are multi-system. They're fun. Lots of random charts. One of my people at GameholeCon who had read it came up to us and said, I love the is there a horse available chart? Because there's just a random chart that says like, all right, this is the kind of size town you're in. Is there a horse going to be available? And then you could, the die roll will determine it. So the DM was like, it took the pressure off of having to like make up a stable. I'm just like, nope, there's one horse over there. So lots of stuff like that's just pretty immediately usable. And Fantastic Geographic has a fair amount of adventures in between both issues, and that are easy, 1 to 2 night kind of runs that you could drop into any campaign for the most part.
Yeah, it seemed like it was truly a zine because it looked like I just kind of flipped through there a little bit last night, but she has some essays from people like Skeeter Green. I saw the city. It looks like is it the same city that you're adding a little bit of locations here and there too?
Yeah, so we had written, this was a couple years ago, we had written all these urban 5e adventures. And we're like, we couldn't figure out how to format them and what to do with them. And then we kind of happened across the zine format, and we're like, this would be perfect for it because each one is a little vignette adventure. So one of them, you're like, you're trying to rescue this kid by dealing with a corrupt magistrate, while these gangs are also trying to get in on it too, because the kid is the only heir to property everybody wants, kind of thing. So that one's like they're thinking adventures. They're not the sort of adventures with those using that Redstone map. That was a Alyssa Faden map that we got.
Okay. Because I've also noticed it seemed like there was some MCC, some DCC. It looks like you said, some stuff just seemed to be, it just seemed like kind of a potpourri where people could just thumb through and be able to just pull out different things. It was like, if I recall correctly, like 64 pages.
Yeah, I mean and we printed it, like it's a nice print. So we say zine, but I mean
Okay.
people, true zine creators with, these black and white homemade books would gasp when they saw it. But yeah, I mean it's a heavy format.
Is it stapled?
No, this one is not stapled, so
Okay.
it's
Okay. So they're
stitched.
perfect bound book, perfect bound with, and it's not 8.5 by 11, is it?
No, it's a digest size, so
Oh, 6 by 9.
yep, just about A4. So
Oh, you went A4. Okay. Yeah. So where'd you get, uh, who printed that?
just some local people that we know. So, and I think
So,
for our current one, we're probably gonna use a company where I know a woman who works there through Levi Combs, actually.
oh yeah,
So
down in Arkansas.
yeah, because they have a good luck with the module size. So like I like it's nice when you see buddies of yours using a printer and you're like, oh, this is turning out good. I like what I'm seeing. And, you don't have to be the test run for them.
Right. I've, you talk about that digest size. I was, for one of my future projects, I was thinking about going 6x9, and then when I ran it through Mix'em, there's it's a significant price increase to go from a 5.5 by 8.5 to a 6x9, which made no sense to me. But then when I would move it up to but there's no price difference between 6x9 and 8.5 by 11. I'm like, they're just using 8.5 by 11 and they're trimming it.
Which is awful too, because then it's not like, chances are it's not going to be trimmed nicely. It's unperfect or something to go wrong.
I'm not so much worried about that, but it just all of a sudden made it be like 6x9 is unless you really are married to that format, you're not saving any money. And if it's the choice between, if you're wanting to, if you need a lot of room, you're better off going at least through Mix'em for that. And I imagine some other printers may be different, maybe the way they carry their paper and what they run it through, but
yeah, and we haven't used Mix'em in any of our, we've pretty much been able to stick to, I mean, our print runs are, 250, 300 tops. So we've been able to stick to local printers without feeling a huge burden of price increase because of that.
Yeah, I did had so luck. I did for another project. I never really did hear back from them. I need to probably pursue that again. The Arkansas people, I did contact them, and they are very, very like responsive, like quick. Like they'll get you the right person. They will give you quotes quick. They're seems like the customer service is pretty phenomenal.
And there's a woman who works there who's a gamer, so she's like gonna look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, it looks like a mod." You know what I mean? Like she knows what she's looking at, which makes a difference in this, because a lot of times, I don't know what you print and put stuff at places, they're like, "What the hell are you actually printing? What is this weird art? What is this?"
Well,
funky
yeah,
math.
I imagine if you probably be at a place like Mix'em, you're probably seeing all sorts of things that you probably wish you could
Yeah,
unsee.
well, that's you just blind, that makes them blinders and
Should I
just,
call the cops? Yeah. It's
I learned to look at that spot on the ceiling and just press the button.
Yeah, but what killed me is not only were they a little more expensive, which is a big deal, but the shipping. And for whatever reason, Mix'em was able to ship at fraction of the cost, and that that's what was difficult. But I believe Levi says he just drives down, picks up. Where are you out of?
I'm in New Hampshire, so there's not much.
Wow.
But Talanian put me onto a guy locally that's like, same thing, like a 15-minute drive from my house, which I was like, ooh, this is nice. So there's you kind of, that's how you find the good printers, is you just kind of troll everybody and see who's had luck where and how it went.
Well, right there, you're saving like $80 in shipping.
Yeah. I mean, and margins aren't like super huge for this.
Well, the margins are great as long as I don't pay myself.
Yep. Yeah, we know that one. We're like, and then when we do get a profit, we're like, we should use this for art for the next thing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay, I think it was another podcast. It's like, or I was talking to somebody. Just you pay for the shipping, you pay for all these things, and you think everybody's getting paid but me.
You kept a copy for yourself, right?
Oh yeah, no, in fact, what I've actually been doing is, and it's not been bad. Gary's appendix actually did fairly well. And Fan the Fly got it. It did a little bit more than break even, and I'm happy because it was just a crazy project. So the fact that anybody bought into it is like,
I think you were close to like that sweet spot for backers. I mean, if you can get yourself 400-ish consistently, you're going to make a little bit.
Yeah, it what helped was going, if it wasn't for Zach going saying, I think this needs to be a hardback. He was wanting to just go fully hardback. I'm glad. Well, maybe even better if I didn't, but if I hadn't gone hardback, I think I would have barely broke even. So I don't know. But anyway, but sometimes you just got to do those projects. You just don't know. I'm sure with your fantastic geographic, it's just like, we're going to do a thing. Oh, you went to Kickstarter with that one though, didn't you?
Yeah, we kickstarted that just to cover our printing costs, and like it worked pretty well.
So
We
so when
sold
you
out
did
of our first print run actually at that, like one of the ones I was whole showing you one, but like I said, that one's mine. I'm keeping
did
that one.
did you but the question is, did you have it all done before we went to Kickstarter, except for the painting?
Yeah, so usually we are, but by the time we go to Kickstarter, our manuscript is always like done, unless something egregious is discovered or, God forbid, some editing snafu, which hasn't really happened. But so our manuscript is done, and we've usually entered layout, and we're gathering art. By the time I mean, we're getting better and better at it. So like the one that's currently kickstarting, I think I'm waiting on 2 or 3 pieces of art, and then it's finished. So that'll be
You're getting
likely
better
be,
at having it more complete when you go to Kickstarter. What are you getting better at?
I think, just like more quickly assembling those things, getting better at being like, by the time we're going to Kickstarter, there's very little left to do. Like we're just assembling projects faster.
Yeah, that eliminates a lot of stress.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of stretch goals, but Rocky kind of pressured me to put them in, so I put unrealistic money expectations on them, which maybe wasn't the best of Kickstarter strategies, but it's like I don't really want to do these parts. But I mean, I would, but I don't know. In a perfect world, maybe.
So what was a crazy high
But
goal that you would have
I
done?
think we put in like a art book, because we have a lot of room art, like specific, because it's like Gamma World,
Yeah.
Mutant Classics is post-apocalyptic, crazy science stuff. So there's a bunch of room pics where it looks like, a door's eye view kind of thing of the room you're
Oh
looking
yeah,
at.
oh, room. At first I thought you said rune. Yeah, Levi did that. I've noticed when playing at GameHoCon with the he's done that with some of his adventures where he'll, not only in the book, but he'll pull out the art like they did with the Expedition of Air Peaks.
I think all of us who played those early modules that had that sort of thing were all like, that was one of the best parts, was the pick reveal by the DM. You're like, oh, like it looks like that, like it's, shocking in the basement somewhere, that that little black and white pick could inspire so much. But that's the feeling I still want to try to hit at the table
Yeah,
if we
and
can.
that's hard because it's definitely that can get, and rightly so, but when you're dealing with art, it can get pretty pretty costly. But if you're funding it through stretch goals, then why not?
Yeah, so it turns out, like we had a couple by Tim Burns art pieces. We wouldn't have enough for a book at this point, but and then I took did 2 more room ones. That was what I was chatting with Ed Bickford about, was shading one of them too. So I was like, look, this looks great. He's like, yeah, now you should shade it like this, and just like waved his magic art wand over it. It was like, my God, like what, how did you do that? It's moments later, I'm still scratching my head, debating my next pen stroke. And but that's someone who's extremely skilled, that they've done it a lot.
Well, it's kind of like my son, learning to drive. It's just that, I explained to him is with all the siblings, it's like you're driving, is you're having to think about every single aspect of driving. And the same thing with the art. It's like, you're just, it takes a lot of concentration, where later on, it's just like somebody can just watch TV and just be like doodling. And you're like, how do you do that?
Yeah, he was likely like texting on the phone or something.
Yeah.
It was
I
like this little
tried.
shadow here, a little shadow. I think he in particular, as his art style, has like a mastery of shading and shadow that, I think goes unrecognized often, that he is able to like truly produce some depth in his art.
Right.
So which is why I asked him. I was like, hey, if you were gonna shade this, how would you change what I did? He's like, I wouldn't do anything that you just did. Like, oh, okay. So
Not
so
only would I not change, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't have done that.
yeah, and but he explained why and what he did, was able to. It's like, give me a call and talked it through. I think that's the nice thing about even the RPG community, is you can kind of talk to people and bounce ideas off them, and hopefully you get some feedback or maybe some knowledge they've learned.
Yeah, and I think it is definitely a right. It's a pretty small. It seems like pretty well community, but also you're not a threat to him. So it's
No, my art wise, I'm not a threat
yeah,
to him.
exactly. Like you're going to say, oh, now that I learned this secret technique, I'm going to take away all your work.
No, and those were a stretch for me, like still life rooms. They came out pretty great though. I was happy with them. Um, but so we've got half a dozen rooms that are sketched out
Oh,
like
that's fun.
art style. Yeah, so it makes a difference. We tried a different sort of layout for this adventure too, in that like we're really trying to make it DM friendly. So we took my high resolution map and have broken down the rooms above the description or right next to the description. So when you're looking and running it, you can see the room you're talking about right next to all the information.
Yeah, a la OSC.
Yeah, very much so. OSE, and then we've added the art assets like right there too. So you'll see, the appropriate monster picture or the appropriate robot picture with the said room.
Yeah, it's fun how it's different things come up, different products, and they do things a different way, and everybody kind of maybe not ape it, but they'll take aspects of it, and it's a constantly evolving process because I think we all realize we still there's no magic formula for
Yeah,
conveying information.
no, there definitely isn't. I think, and I mean, it's look at how far it's come from just like textbook style walls of text to,
Yes.
but I think for me at least at this like age and experience in gaming, like I want an adventure that I can just pick up and go if I really need to. Like sure, it's great when you get the time to read it ahead of time, but does that always happen? Like I've definitely, in the past where you're like you clearly didn't finish reading the whole adventure and you let them like do something irreparable to the
Yeah,
adventure because of that. You're like,
exactly.
oh no, we never should have talked to that guy. Like
Yes.
like he is the vampire lord. Oh, sheesh. But like it's that's kind of what we're trying to eliminate is some of that panic that you can quickly get the information, know what's going on. Um,
Yeah, and I've tried my hand a little bit of adventure writing, not much. I just realized I'm not that great at it. I think like anything, it's like you just need to keep doing it. So
yeah, it helps. I've found to like have a writing partner or partners that are willing to just kind of spitball ideas with you. They're always way better when someone tells you parts of it that are stupid and parts of it that are good. I think lets you bounce it around.
yeah, because it's very easy, to write something, think you're being very clever, but then when somebody else reads it or you run it and they're like, they figured it all out. You're like,
Yeah, too clever for your own good.
yeah, it's like, oh, it's the guy who's wrapped in the carpet. I'm like,
They'll never get this riddle, and then yeah, right off someone's like, "Yep, got it."
it's like, yeah, I read the same book or I saw the same show or whatever it may be. That's but no, there definitely is. I do much better creating situations than I do actual. I think probably when I run stuff, I tend to run things that are more situational rather than prescriptive.
You've played a lot of Traveler too, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah, not for a long time. Coriolis is one, which is it's pretty much Traveler, so you can just say Traveler. And but also I did like a hack on Blades in the Dark, which is another one. And so those are kind of more like a situation comes up, and the mechanics are kind of set up on some of those. Well, not so much Coriolis, but well, the basic Coriolis, I just did a sandbox. What I just did was ran some jobs, let people pick, let them do a thing. They usually, you know, they usually did something to make somebody mad, maybe somebody makes somebody happy. And I just keep track of all those people, and I just put those people in the next like 2 or 3 sessions. Those people will show up again. So that way, it's just it worked for a while, but that works out better for me. But as far as trying to write out a dungeon, I don't know. That's hard.
Yeah, I don't. I kind of start with a map. I think Rocky works the other way too. Is that he has like this picture in his mind. Um, so it's you're trying to sometimes turn that into a map is takes some like, hey, wait a minute, this has gotta be shifted, or this isn't quite right. It needs to be, that doesn't quite fit. But
Yeah, and it's because when I did the one for Fane, the dungeon, it is a dungeon, but it's not necessarily like a dungeon proper. But I also found that having a dungeon laid out helped me to all. So even though I had part of it written, seeing it also helped me continue to write it. And even my newest version, Journey of the Madlands, I'm working on, sketching out a map as I go is also changing how I'm writing, and how I'm writing is changing, the map. So, eventually it's starting to gel, but it seemed like for a while there, I worked back and forth and everything just seems kind of chaotic. Is that same for you, or do you guys generally work in a fairly linear fashion?
it can be, so we generally go to an idea to, so like Creeping Cold was, I pitched an idea to Rocky and he's like, all right, it sounds good, but this is what it, and we started making an outline and kind of broke up our writing from there. The Mutant Call Classics are all things that I wrote. But same thing. I usually get an idea and then I often get a map and then I match the two together, and make them work. So I have a slew of these Mutant Crawl Classics ones that are all. I was, for some reason during COVID, I was really obsessed with drawing maps of and pictures of Quonset huts and isometric map tiles. So I don't know what what inspired that, but Quonset huts apparently described it. So that's what was, looks like half a Coke can
Yeah.
stuck in the
Oh, yeah.
ground, that notoriously leaky, and just like
I think they're meant for the desert, but they got used in quite different places. I think probably the 60s.
yeah, I think they were not meant for permanent use, but I liked the look of them, so I created a bunch of those for Mutant Quill Classic Adventures, where these monkey scientists were doing all sorts of crazy
Those
experiments.
crazy monkey scientists.
Yeah.
Give the monkey science and look what they do. Because I tried my hand at isometric and I got myself so my head hurt so much and I got myself so turned around. My eyes kept flipping the image even when I was working on it. I couldn't. I was having a hard time.
I've definitely found myself like mesmerized and lost in an isometric map where you're like caught between planes. Like, I don't know where. Like, wait, was that the wall? Wait a minute, and you're just stuck, sort of lost. I've had that happen before.
Yeah. So I just
like you stare at the sun too long, kind of thing.
Yeah, it can be that way. So I've given up on as far as that. What I've been doing is I've been using incarnate for lately, but my plan is I just sketching it out. Then my idea is going to be, I'm not a cartographer, so I'll end up to find somebody that properly do it once I get that done. But at least with incarnate, you can kind of make a decent looking map.
Yeah, you can. I think they're commercial license too, but I don't.
They do, and a person could definitely, like, if you knew what you're doing, you could do it. But I think for me, it's much better to just say, this is what I really like, but I want to find somebody that's got a style to, not look like an incarnate map.
I find that too, that like really, even with art styles, like you want to have a style that matches throughout, and you want to find a map that matches that style throughout, so that it's like all got that same vibe when you're looking at it. I think that was the benefit of the zine format, right? Is I'm like, all right, well, we're sick of this format. Let's switch to a new art style and a new different looking map, and that kind of stuff, which is freeing to do that so quickly in one product.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But it is. So I guess the question is, so how many of these the Fantastic Geographics, you just plan on doing these indefinitely?
I think so. We had at least 4 like planned, and we were like, oh, well, timing, we'll try to do it. Obviously we're like, we'll do this quarterly, so we're like, all right, that'll be 1/4 of 2 years we'll do it. So we'll do at least 2 more, likely more after that, because we just have ideas. that are floating out there. Lots of shorter stuff that didn't have homes. Is a lot of like our work and file random stuff that we like thoughts that we had that we wanted to turn into something. So I think it's a fun playground for me. Like I got to write a Morkborg adventure. I got to that like do a little bit of like post-apocalyptic crawl stuff. I got to do a 5e. Like it's nice to be able to creatively jump from world to world like that. Like I quite enjoy it.
Well, and then that's now the expectation of it too.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
Right, because you said this is what it is. Now, if you say, you know what, we're just going to do all of this for the next issue and all of something else the next issue, people be like, what? And it's like now it's like it's been established, and whoever's buying it, whoever bought issue 1 then bought issue 2, they're probably now expecting issue 3 to be that same.
And we do try to hit like every sort of major group. Like we try to make sure there's like an OS system in there. We try to make sure that there's one of a crawl capable system for all the Goodman folks. So we try to make sure there's a 5e in there.
Maybe I ought to pick up. Maybe I ought to. I think there's a fellow I knew. This is kind of a jump, but I'll come back around. So I used to sell photography at a farmer's market in a town nearby. It was not just a farmer's market. It was pretty elaborate, but there's a guy next to me who was so talented, and he'd get tired of doing a thing. He'd do a different thing. So he started doing chainsaw carvings. I kid you not. He carved an ear of corn and it sold. There's a reason, but anyway, but I told him what you really should be doing is carve something that you think won't sell.
Just to see if it's
like, is it possible? So maybe you got all these systems. Maybe you ought to just throw in something like crazy, like in a system that's no longer around or whatever.
Like an adventure for. Don't tempt me, because I have notes on stuff for like I'll put an original Ghostbusters West End Games.
Yeah. Just something like
file the serial numbers off just enough.
Yeah, exactly.
For your ghost friendly D6 based game.
That would be. I think that would be fun, because you're already saying we're in the land of eclectic. We're in the land of variety. That might be a fun thing too, just to throw in a little something.
A dead system. I should do a poll to see which dead system I likely.
What necromancy are you unleashing here?
Please no Bushido. That would be just too much crunch.
Well, I think you could also even do like an homage to it without really like maybe not homage, but even just a supplementary article wouldn't have to be too crazy. But yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, you'd have to find. I think that we could probably count on our hands the number of folks out there who could write a cogent article on Bushido at this point.
I remember seeing it in Dragon Issue. I remember seeing that, but I have never picked it up, and I've never read it. I don't know of I'm sure they're out there.
I spent a lot of lonely hours as a preteen making Bushido, mapping out Bushido fights with just index cards with the next moves. But I think that was I'm in the few that
yes. And that's what's hard. I mean, it's kind of like it's like the GM sorrow too. It's like we all have those systems that we really love, but we can never find anybody to run it for.
Yeah, the Morkborg was pretty fun to write too. That I had a good time with that. I was able to stick a spaceship in a Morkborg adventure, which I thought was just lovely.
Yeah, and I think it's I've never played, not really read, but my understanding is it's a fairly simple system, and it is probably very liberating that you can just kind of do whatever. It's not like, doing something way out of line where people are going to say, "Oh, that's just too crazy for Morkborg."
Well, and I did an interesting. It's a tavern crawl essentially, where you're going into the tavern and like trying to figure out what's going on. That there's free beer being offered, you've heard. So you're going to where there's
And you're a
free
college
booze.
age and you got no
Yes.
money.
Well, the world's ending. It's more quirks. So like the world's
Okay.
ending soon. You're just like, let's ride it out. So yeah, I mean, it like the first obstacle is getting through the line, and it's really fun with players seeing what they some of them do to try to get past the lines. But and then it's like you could potentially just let them play forever, random rolling different bars with weird stuff, different rooms with weird stuff happening in them in a bar. So it's from anything from a dark room with one dude with a candle reading, the very depressing poetry, to raucous rooms that are fun. So that was a fun adventure to play and run too.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a fun thing about some of the, we'll say, lighter systems, that it can allow you to do that. In my mind, I've not really sure how I would do it, but I think I mentioned the podcast before. I think it would be kind of fun is to go back to like the pulp stories, real weird space, or whatever ones that they have. They're just weird stories that just seem to, I don't know, are just odd, and like make just scenarios where that's just it. It's, the aliens have taken over, they're harvesting brains, and there's this major factory and there's an uprising and you have to go do X, and just that would be the game. And then another time it would be something completely different.
That yeah, I do think playing that like that would be fun. For a while, we were doing myself and some other guys were doing, who were all designers, were doing like random runs, where one of us would just be play testing something out, which was a lot of fun. But it's like anything, gaming takes time. But that I like that could be the next adventure, is a cyborg commando.
Yeah.
Another terrible system. But Nate Sims at Gamehole was like testing out his Invasion Earth. That was, oh, why am I blanking? It's a Hackmaster. Same people who made a Hackmaster. So it's Kenzer and Company. Thank you. Sorry, I was connecting all the dots
Yeah.
in my head. But it was fun. Like I played with the kids and it was a blast. It was just that aliens coming down to suck your brains, and you're defending in power armor with laser guns. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just and it's just they're odd. I mean, it's just kind of much different than how the weird comics. And I think they're if you look at like later Eerie and Creepy and House of Secrets, those just odd, weird stories, or that was kind of the progeny of that, or is it the other direction? But anyway, it was just I guess they're the progeny, where you could just play like House of Secrets, and those are the storylines.
You definitely could like pick up some of the early, depending on your game system, right? Like grab an early Asimov's, grab an early and you'd have all your adventures right in one. It's a good spot for source material, is all that the old stuff.
The thing is that a good portion of, if you go back far enough, is in public domain.
Yep.
And so if the art, even if you were just to redo the art, at least you'd have that kind of laid out. So you and Rocky been how long have you two been working on these projects?
So, well, we had put out, so Rocky and I have sort of partnered business wise for maybe 4-ish years. And we put out 4 or 5 years. I'm bad with years, but we put out some stuff, and then like we put out an adventure and put out a couple little things, and Rocky was kind of slowed down for a couple of years with lung cancer. So I did a charity zine for him during that, which was called Black Lung. And that's just to raise some cash for him, and that did pretty good. I sold out all of those and moved them well. And then we kind of slowly worked back in. He had done, and he was feeling better. He'd done some layout for Greg Gillespie with some of his books, and some other layout with Frog God. And he's doing some for Skeeter Green now. but just some other side stuff that we'd always been working on. And he's feeling better, and we've been cranking stuff out since then.
Well, that's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. For me, I know he's feeling better because he's like producing, he's like, I've got this great adventure, all that excitement of creation is back. You can see the fire of some of those ideas kindled
Yeah, I
back
mean,
up.
when you're younger, you don't, you're kind of looking forward to getting older, but then when you get older, you're like, I didn't sign up for this stuff. I didn't sign up for people dying of cancer.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for any of this. It's like, what's going on here? It's like, it's just, but it's good to hear that he's doing better, because that's just the pits for anybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's terrifying, right? Like, you're worried about it coming back, and his
Oh,
little kids, like we both have, school age children. It's like that. I could not wish that on someone to have to deal with that.
no. But anyway, at least things are looking better, and you've got a fire in the hole, or a fire in the mole.
Which are play on words. That one is, yeah, and it's not my other trick is it's not really a mole, it's a possum. So it's a mutant, or a mechano opossum hybrid lava explorer. It's this giant cybernetic possum made to explore geothermal vents and lava tubes. So it's a formidable foe that the players have to exterminate when in that adventure. Keeps
So
coming.
was it the, I hope this is true, but was it the invention of a monkey scientist?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was definitely invented by monkey scientists.
Okay.
This was their strategy to help map out the lava tunnels around the area. So that was their exploratory strategy.
Okay.
Like, you think possums are cute? The 12-foot one with cybernetic guns on it is not as cute.
And you meet it in a dark Kwanzaa hunt.
Yeah,
It's even more terrifying.
For real. In a leaky dark Quonset hut. Run by a shady AI. Like,
yes. Well, that sounds fun. So I mean, so you before you were talking about doing 5e adventures, but now so was there like a sudden shift to Mutant Crawl Classics as far as your proclivities, or what's the deal with that?
So I mean, I've written a bunch of stuff for like Jim Wampler's Scientific Barbarian.
Yeah.
So like he has I did like a whole slew of items, a lot of it pulled from my home campaign stuff. It's a game that I run a lot, so I get a good playtest field for it, and I get to try out my adventures in there a lot. So I'm a big fan of like post-apocalyptic and future game, like Western games. Star Wars was a big one for me. Traveler, we played a lot of Traveler.
Oh, you did. So which version of Traveler did you play?
Multiple versions. So the probably the last one we played for a long time was the Mongoose release, like re-release of all the little black one books and a lot of that stuff. But we played the Traveler New Era for a little bit. We played with the adventures in the back of the novel. Like, oh, that was pretty sweet when I was a little kid finding that thing. But yeah, we enjoyed the heck out of several Traveler eras.
Yeah, we played. I mean, back in the day, we played it was the little black books consolidated into one big book with art. So, and then we used the hero system. I ran a bunch of that using the hero system.
Traveler's deadly. Like, it's unless you're in power armor, you get shot at, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's a fail. They say it's a fail state. Combat it's kind of weird. It's hard, and I think that's something RPGs have always I'll say much I've always grappled with is it's like so much is focused on combat, and even more games like Traveler shouldn't be, yet still anything that's interesting you have is related to combat.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of the tech shouldn't be. That's one of the reasons I like Mutant Crawl Classics is like apparently mundane items can be future teched up and create, you know, an hour of fun for this group. You know, figuring it out that it's a vacuum cleaner or something stupid. Yeah, and they have a ball doing it. And when they figure it out, they're like, "Oh my God, this makes so much sense!" Like they've, you know, like reverse engineered,
Yeah.
you know, some monkey scientist vacuum cleaner, and
Those evil monkey scientists.
but it's, yeah, there's a lot of those games. The tech kit is often, you know, shields, guns, spaceships. I like spaceships a lot personally, but
I just started thinking, I don't know why my brain went off on this tangent, but you're the monkey scientist. And I was thinking what would be kind of fun is if you were to determine who the big bad guy, you know, whatever it is, and then everybody like, you know, picks like an adjective.
and then just to describe.
Yeah,
That
so
would be,
okay,
so
it's a
you
scientist.
roll
It's a monkey
random
scientist.
roll
They
genus
are.
and phylum, and then
And then so he says, well, they're hateful. Oh, they're hateful monkey scientists. And somebody else gets to choose an adjective.
that could be a fun campaign design.
Yeah, and that would be the big bad
That's
race. That would be the one that caused the downfall. Like,
We'll
who
have to
caused this?
mine were of, like, they're benevolent-ish. I think there's a point where I put
What are?
Rocky, the monkey scientists in mine.
Okay, they're
They're
kinder,
sort of
gentler monkeys. They're not the.
like, they're, you know, they're doing some questionably unethical experiments,
And
I think,
scientists
but
are wont to do.
yeah. So messing with plants and
Because
other
they're just
stuff,
curious.
alien media. Yeah, they're that right.
They're
learn to
George.
use-
Yes.
they learn to use these tools. They just want to try stuff.
I got this opposable thumb. I might as well do something with it. In
Well, you
fact,
were
I got them
saying
on my feet too.
about those old school systems, and that's what it's, Matt Finch always laughed at me because I'd say, playing with him in any convention game, I'd say, well, if I'm rolling the dice in your game, I'm losing. I'm not winning anymore. So I feel like I try to avoid rolling the dice at all costs, because that means I've talked my way out of it, or smarted my way around it, or, you know, figured out another way to bypass whatever trap it is, which I think is the benefit of some of those less skill-based and older school systems that you can deal with.
Yes, and I think I enjoy characters that way. I think I think even though I don't think the system's great, I think Shadowrun does a good job with those kinds of rules.
Yeah, I think Shadowrun definitely gives some, lets you have that sort of A team face role, and use it in
Yeah,
an effective way that can convince people and change some things and
yeah. You
affect
just have
gameplay.
money and you're very convincing. You can just start plying people left and right. Next thing you know, it's like, why am I fighting this guy? Why don't I just hire them?
Yeah, right. Like, listen, how much are you getting for that? I'll give you twice as much if you just hand over the data, and we can call this a night.
So my character was building a we were playing last time. I was building a what do you call it, like a clothing line empire as he's going. So like there's a bunch of people that were displaced, and like, well, now I have workers for my factory. It's like, I'll pay you well. Now I've got people working, and I would come across somebody that'd be a high end related to a very very prominent member of like Ari's, their child. Like, well, how about I pay you and you become a social media program? You know, as I was going along, I was adding people.
The retinue. That's the way you do it. That's the smart way.
And the problem was he ended up shooting once, and I regretted I even pulled the trigger because I wanted to go the whole game. Have you ever played? Have you ever played Coriolis?
I've seen it, but I haven't played it myself. But it looks interesting. I mean,
have you ever played any of the Year Zero engine games?
So yeah, like Mutant Year Zero, I've played.
Okay, so it's the same situation where you roll, and then you can roll again, but if you roll again, it creates some sort of complication.
Yep.
And so for the Coriolis, it's praying to the icons, but that brings darkness. which can be used against you. And this one guy I was listening to today said he played a character that was going to be the atheist, or a practical atheist, but we wanted to play him as the very end when things got desperate. Then he would finally do it. But he tried the whole time to not do that. I think that's kind of fun, where you can take the mechanics of a game and still not fight against it, but kind of use it in a very
Like
fun way.
Lean into it in an unexpected manner. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is clever. I did like you talk about mechanics as like a force of the role play. I really like the first One Ring system that came out by
I
Kubo
never
7.
played it.
It like forced, to be successful in combat, you needed to have people in all of these different stance roles, like sort of covering each other's back. So if your party didn't work well together, they got cut down a lot more quickly than if they all jived and were like watching out for each other and using their shields to block blows for each other. Like they could be super effective, which I really like that it like emphasized some of that team play.
Right. I think you're right. That is kind of the it probably a little bit more realistic as far as a group together, rather than just people just randomly just going Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, well, that's like 5e is like that, right? It's just like grand melee. Everybody's thrown in. You're hitting your buddies. You're hitting anybody. You're just chopping. But so I like those systems that can adjust with that and make you be a little bit smarter about how you're playing if you get the strategy.
Yep. I told you it was going to happen.
You predicted it. You summoned them.
So I guess when you played Traveler, what kind of campaigns did you play?
So I got stuck running a lot. So one, they turned into a merchant marine campaign pretty quickly. A couple were like corporate espionage sort of games that I had written, where like one corporation was trying to take over a sector and get some resources, and they wanted either a rival corporation would get involved and ask them to either make raids or do stuff like that. That was pretty fun. And then lots of weird Xeno encounters as you're drifting through space between systems.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, at least the earlier version of Traveler just didn't do very well, is with the creatures.
At all. Like you were like, where were they? But you'd see some of the art or discussion of it like on a planet. So it's, I don't know, at a very young age, I was like, well, that could just be in space, right? Or
right.
What if there's like, I don't know how many times as a kid we ran into the same old like zoo ship run amok, floating around in space.
That would be fun.
Well, it's like, classic Star Trek, right? Like some super smart guy with way higher tech level is like, I have my zoo ship, and something goes terribly wrong, obviously. And then, so adventure ensues, which is fun too, because then you could just have like, all right, it's like a aquatic creature right next to some fire creature. It can be a lot of fun and unexpected encounters with stuff like that.
Yeah, we never played with creatures, and I think it's just because the rules would just say flyer or grazer or whatever. It's just like,
you're right.
Like there's nothing cool about this.
You're like won't eat me, might eat me, definitely gonna try to eat me. Those are the three Traveler character creatures sections.
So you played when you were younger. Do you ever play when you were older, or like what was the cutoff for a Traveler?
I think the last one we ran was a Mongoose Traveler. I'm trying to even remember what the plot of that one was. It was like people wanted to play, and it was like an off night game. Like it was a game that, in case the regular DM was out, so we had made a Traveler game to pick up for that. And they're all old school players, so it was like they were mapping out new skills with their time spent between system, like, which you never see people raise skills in Traveler, and they'd be like, yep, I got this up a point. But they were doing lots of like random missions at places and running into trouble and just kind of getting out, dealing with local crime. They were trying to merchant marine it a bit too, trying to chase things. But that group, they found a tank somewhere, that they managed to repair. So they would often
Nice.
try to go to places like small backwater planets where there was a war, and like hiring out the
Right.
to one side.
Kind of
You know,
like the in the
everybody's
line of
using,
blind people, the one eye man rules. So you just
yeah,
fight
like
somebody
is
sufficiently
it
low enough tech. We
yeah,
got a tank.
in the line of muskets, the hover tank rules. It's like just the sight of it would end fights. I'd be like, all right, well, you win. But that ended up backfiring on them eventually, because as things always do with players.
Well, it's because I think it's probably always easy to find somebody that will like, go into a groove of D&D. I mean, that seems to be like like that's where everything wants to go to. It's like like gravity pulls to that point, but to actually find a group of people like, yes, you traveler, let's go all out. It's like it's not always easy to find.
And we had people like a couple of people push the limits with character creation too, because they were like just trying to get some rank in the Navy or something, and would be like, all right, well, that guy's bit it. I'm gonna have to start again, or this character is so old and decrepit at this point, they're just useless. So, but Traveler's funny too. You're like, so I think of it as like Traveler, you're like starting your adventuring career at my age now, right? Like you're like, all right, I'm sick of working. Let's cash out, go to spaceship share, and get the hell out of here.
Hopefully, or you just roll vac suits, 3 times and you muster out with a blade. That was the old black books were that way. Like vac suit. I was the Marines just to get vac suit and a blade.
Vac suits are expensive. It fits right. The two don't mix well either together. So you're
No,
like, oh no, I got my vac suit.
or maybe just murder people with vac suits with your blade too. That's just I don't know. I just find I think there was so much, with the original Traveler. I mean, there's so much that would just so right, but boy, you get these characters behind, you're like, I don't understand what you just did here, Mark Miller.
I feel like it would have been better if he had done like what Star Wars did and had character like archetypes for each. Like, oh, you want to be a high guard, it's
Right.
this. You want to be this, it's this.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe start out with, I think Mongoose, I think, people, I don't know, probably people have different feelings, but I think there's a lot of things that Mongoose did right with the changes they made.
yeah, it's eminently more playable. Like that's why we used that system. It was like, oh, like this is nice. I remember finding it at Gen Con and was like, ooh, I'm really quite excited.
Yeah, I was looking. So GURPS has a lot of Traveler books that they did. I'm not sure, and Far Trader and a few others. It gets really into some pretty cool but complicated stuff. And I was kind of flipping through there. On eBay, they had like the GURPS Traveler for like $14 or $15. I almost bought. It's like, no, I'm not going to play GURPS Traveler.
Oh, that's the thing, right? You're like, ooh, that's why I do try to do it with Kickstarter. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do like 2 Kickstarters this month. That's all back. I gotta like spend my slots, and we're all just be like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I'll read that and I'll read that.
So when you buy, I'm finding for me for Kickstarters, my reasons for or what I back is different now than it used to be. Do you not to lead the witness, but I tend to, used to be kind of stuff I thought I would be running. I still pretend I will, I think, with these, but I'm also tend to look at things I can also um get ideas from, both from the content and from the layout.
Yeah, for sure. And to see the artists that they're using and how they
Yeah.
jived with certain things. Yeah, 100%. Like a lot of them, I pick up a lot of zines that same way, and to just because I want to see how they did it, see what's in there, see what they created. What's one that the WHPA Fairhaven Channel 13. Have you seen that one? That one's really
No.
good. I recommend that one. It's it's a whole game, but like old school style system. But you're a TV host for a public access channel. So you've got your show, and then you're basically solving mysteries, and it's really well done though. But that's why I grab it, right? Because I'm like, this looks. And that was I saw the cover. I was like, what?
Oh,
That's
nice.
that's so amazing. But same thing. Like I grabbed that because I was like, that looks neat. I'll probably never get a chance to run it. I'm trying to cajole people I know into running it so I can get in on a game at least.
Yeah, there are professional GMs out there. You might be able to find one to pay.
I don't know if they'd have access to. I don't know if they'd be willing to run the Weird Heroes of Public Access role playing.
There's some people that I think I don't know, but I believe there's some people out there that are probably would. But I don't know. You got to find them and then cough up the funds.
I think if I paid for a game too, my expectations would be much higher.
It probably just depends how much you're. That's a good question. Much higher. Probably just depend how much I paid. Because you just look at your hourly rate. So
You're
if
like,
you're paying
if you're giving them $5, it's fine. You're just buying them a couple sodas. That's not
yeah,
no
exactly.
big
It's like,
deal.
yeah, I'm not gonna come down too hard, but yeah.
If you're giving them like $100, like I want to see some premium visuals and something tangible I get to hold. Like I want to see that reactor pod. Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and it does seem like I've never. Have you ever looked at any of the discords or anything else, see what people charge or pay for that?
I don't. Every once in a while, you see the people posting up about it, and then like getting hate from other random people for no reason, and then
I hate because they're taking
yeah,
money from
it's because they're charging money, which is
oh,
like,
it's
you know
filthy.
what? If someone's paying for you, the good for you. You managed to swing. I would rather be running Dungeons and Dragons games but then the worry is, wouldn't it feel like it would start to feel like work? You'd be like, oh shit, honey, I gotta go. I got a
Yeah.
D&D game at 4. Oh, back to the grind.
Well, somebody at work was stating that there's like he looks for these like work opportunities, especially work camping, and it was in Hawaii, and they want somebody to I think homeschool their kids for a certain amount of time, or whatever. But but the thing is like if you spent the money for tickets to go to Hawaii and you're at somebody's home and you have to deal with somebody's kids, that may be a nightmare.
That sounds like a nightmare. They're willing to get hired on to do that. I'll give you my number after this. They can camp in my backyard all summer as long as they're watching my kids.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of funny, but no, I agree. People get angry and upset, and I'm like, it just maybe it's jealousy.
I get it though. Like there's some instances, like I could see, you're 40 years old or whatever. You want to like you have some nostalgia with your buddies, and you want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like you do want to hire someone to just do it for you and appear with an adventure and characters and ready to roll. Like
Yeah,
that makes some sense to me. I'm not sure how big a market there is for it, but
I think there's quite a big market for that.
so maybe we're missing out.
Well, yeah, but I got to be a good GM. That's the problem. Or I could hire somebody. Yes, I could hire somebody.
I'm told I'm a good GM. I have a good time usually. I've only made a couple people cry.
Well, I found to me the secret of being a good GM is having good players.
Well, yeah, any table with great players is obviously more. I think what was it? Your last guest said it, when she's like, that system would work with the right table. Like any system works with the right table of people who have the buy-in to make it work. It's gonna work then, but
right, because the best system of rules that you love, it can be just such a dud, and likewise, you can play the most broken nonsense, and everybody's just laughing hysterically.
Yeah, so I think it really does depend on your group. It's not you, it's your players.
It really is. You get a good group of people, and you just don't get in the way. That's your number one goal. Just don't get in the way of whatever that magic that's happening.
Yeah, not saying no is the one that I very rarely tell the players no. Like, sure, you want to try that.
Well, what I will usually do if they want to do something, I found is I always say there's a chance.
Yeah.
And so, but here's a 6-sided die.
What is so
6 means you succeed. 1, this ends with your death, and 2 through 5 is somewhere in between.
I was running a game today, so I was running an OSE game for these like 10 to 12-year-olds today, and one of them was they're headed to the Isle of Dread. So they saw a ship of cultists with a bunch of undead, and one of them says, I'm going to shoot at them, and the others are going, no, they don't seem to be bothering us, we need to just keep moving. We need to keep moving. So it's, the same way, but it's fun to see the differences when you're running like a good group, and it takes is one kid with a bow to ruin everybody's
my
day.
arrow. When they're not looking, I pull out my bow and I shoot them.
Yeah. He was, but that one, they're half of the party has a over under pool that he's the first death. He's the first one to lose a character this season. So this session.
Yeah,
so.
It's funny because I ran some for a number of kids. And it was odd. There's one who would take all these crazy risks and things would go bad, but he was happy with it.
Yeah.
And there could be a sibling who is deathly afraid of anything bad happening to their character when, really all it is just markings of pencil on a piece of paper. Like,
yeah. Yep. Yeah, like... it truly is, right? I think that's the benefit of like playing with your siblings with the old school systems, is like your brother was dying to chop you in half with something when he was the DM.
Yeah.
He was like, yes. You're like, oh, I spent 2 years with that character. You just killed him. But
we've done some rambling off of your Kickstarter. But I guess, how long is your Kickstarter going before we go too far off the?
So as of today, we've got 2 more weeks. We end on the 28th. We're going pretty strong now. Hoping to get up there for backers. 200 would be great. And then expect to see a second Mutant Crawl Classics in a Quonset hut. It's coming after this one. And then we have a few other things in the pipe, as well as some X Crawl stuff that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, and it's hard. I know when I did Gary's Appendix, it seemed like it was pretty steady as far as backers going, but Thane hit that stretch of like over a week where it's just getting pretty bleak. Going in the negative a day or two, it's just like, oh no, wrong direction.
I have and I think that's why we do this stuff, right? Like, get out there, let people know what we're about, what we're doing.
Yeah, well, you're doing a better job of marketing your stuff than I did for mine.
This one we're on. In the past ones, I've just been like, we should do like talks to some podcasts and like shares, like, and then that's the extent of what we did, was talking about what we should do. But I kind of got off my butt and been hitting people up this time trying to get out there.
Yeah, it's definitely I think it's also great you have 2 people doing this. It's just that, when you're not even just 2 people, one person, it's like everybody has their things they're comfortable with, everybody has their strong points, and people also have those areas that are just difficult. And I'm not really good about marketing. That's just definitely something. But getting out there is important, because getting people to hear, people to see, it all adds up in the long run.
Yeah, it definitely does. And people hearing about it, or hearing something that we're saying about our adventures that sounds like something that they jive with, and hopefully they'll back us. Take a look at what the stuff we're doing. I can tell you, everybody who's played has had fun, even at Gamehole Con, when one of the players almost overloaded the reactor and blew up the whole place. So the other player with that, of course, with the party, the other player manages to stop the reactor from blowing, but barely. So it electrocutes a random room. That room is, of course, the room all the other players are in. Open on the table, rolls, and like, it's just, so it's, I mean, this adventure is just, it's a blast. People have had a lot of fun playing it. So,
well, I'll definitely have to be on the lookout for your games next year at Gamehole.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like same thing. There's people's games that I have like a running list of people I'd like to play with, and I try to check off at least one of them every convention, of like guys I know, guys whose products I've seen, kind of thing that you wanna
It's hard. I found that, you know, with a lot of people, it's like you only get like
a game.
yeah, one, and that
Like,
it's like, yeah.
I'm like, but between running and everything, I'm like, I get it. I get a game. That's so. Like
Yeah,
I
and you're
said,
part of the independent gamer or that. No, I forgot the acronym.
yeah, Independent Publishers Union. That
Yeah.
was a bunch of us just kind of splitting the table costs. So
Yeah, so that's been good. And you guys have had a pretty strong presence. I'm sure just there's a lot of cross-pollination going on when you're a group of people right there.
oh yeah, like I think I did all of Skeeter's maps for the valley at a time that he just is just in layout, and Rocky's doing his layout. So it's like there's it's a little incestuous maybe, but
Yeah.
we help each other out when you're looking for looking for maps, looking for materials. I think we've all of us between Levi and myself have written stuff. I have something in one of Levi's phylacteries that's like an homage to Levi, and I talk about Arduin a lot, so it's sort of an homage to one of my favorite Arduin things. Got to write an adventure for his phylactery and that, which was a blast
So
too.
what is one of your favorite Arduin things?
So I like there's a dwarven hammer that is basically like can eat away ground. It just chomps through the ground and can crack and make fissures and stuff like that. So my adventure idea was in Levi's is it's this kingdom that it's a mountainous kingdom that experiences avalanches every spring. So they have a dude who just that's his gig. He's an old retired adventurer with an artifact hammer, and they go and have to have him clear the avalanches with this artifact hammer. So the adventure is he wants basilisk oil to rub into his hammer because his hammer is refusing to do work until it gets properly oiled.
Oh, okay.
So you got to go squeeze some basilisk oil to please it. But that was my like my tie into Arden was it's basically a similar item kind of thing, like given a premise
Well,
of
what's
like
interesting because somebody on the podcast, I can't remember who was talking about somebody playing a game where they broke as a player because they had a hammer that could like dig trenches, and they just were able to.
that might be that one, but repeated uses can break it. I mean, it is an artifact. It's not to be handed out lightly, but I always really loved Arduin from the first ones I found that had like those item cards with clearly a Cylon in the back and a laser rifle. I was like, what am I looking at? And this is Dungeons and Dragons. So my first Arduin buy was an antique store grab for the guy was like, oh, it's missing its back cover. You can have that one with those 2 X-Men comics for $2. You're like, oh, sweet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, for real though. You're like it was that was a great purchase. I spent many an hour in that book.
Yeah, I've not really more lately. I've been able to see some of the product, but I was not really too aware of it other than maybe some of the covers. So
it looks like Emperor's Choice or the people who own the license now. It looks like they're trying to do some stuff with it, which could be super cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think they are. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, it's because there's some rich IP there. Everything, flying sharks, and it's the way to go.
Before Sharknado was cool. Before
yeah, Dave Hargrave was years ahead of his time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's very cool. Well, yeah, I think we're hitting the time space continuum. At least my voice is.
And I appreciate you letting us share, and hopefully we'll get to game soon.
Yeah. Hopefully not say Gamehole Con next year. So I'll definitely be seeking out your game. So that sounds like a lot of fun. So anyway, good luck with your Kickstarter, mister.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You have a really good night.